I feel like we were lied to about Social Security. That when you reach retirement age, you would have income that you could live on without having to work. You could live out your remaining years, maybe travel. Take it easy, Play with the grandkids. Go fishing every day if you wished. But no, that ain't so. For a lot of Americans, it's continuing to work, to worry, have depression, misery, and sickness. Buying and paying off a house is unachievable for a lot of Americans nowadays. Prices just continue skyrocketing. Cost of living is ridiculous for everybody. And that clock, that sorry, miserable clock, it just never stops counting down your time remaining on this earth. Only 53% of non-retirees expect to live comfortably when they retire. And 25% of workers over 50 feel they will never be able to retire. Studies show that you need $1.4 million stashed away somewhere to live comfortably after you retire. Only 2.5% of us have that. Yeah. 15% of Americans will die before they even reach retirement age. That's free money in the hands of the government. And 30% of you will die before you even reach age 70. So, yeah, there's that. The average American receives $2,071 a month in Social Security. That's what they claim. A lot of us receive a lot less than that. And 30 to 40% of you, that'll be your only source of income. So, if you worked 50 years of your life and made an average of $15 an hour, I started working in 1978. I think the minimum wage was $3.25. So, anyway, I just kind of averaged a $15 an hour thing. So, if you made that and you and your employee paid in your percentages over 50 years, you would have paid in approximately $200,000, approximately. If you only live to your 70 and you start collecting it when you're 67, you will only have gotten about $75,000 of that. The other $125,000 goes in the pocket of the government to do with what they do with it. And who really knows? They invest part of it, they blow part of it, and some of it goes to the current people that are retired. You can look that up. I read that on the internet. So there's that. You have to pay your taxes monthly or yearly on time, or you get penalized for it. Threats, all kinds of good stuff. And the government gets to keep the money you pay in almost most of your life, if not all of your life. You get nothing unless you're one of the lucky ones that live long enough to draw your little puny check every month. A check that most people struggle to even exist on. Meaning a large portion of the population have to work until they just die. And they get to live a pretty dismal life while doing it. Quality of life pretty much sucks when you retire. So you see, that dream that Americans had, most Americans especially used to, I do, like I said, I figured when I was younger, paying in Social Security my whole life, that I'd be able to live, exist, live. I didn't figure I'd be a millionaire, but I figured I'd be able to live, at least be able to pay my bills and live comfortably and be able to retire. Maybe do some traveling, doing some stuff, For most of us, that's a lie, man. It's just a BS lie. You think you're going, oh, I'm going to get me a nice boat. You go fishing, go hunting, playing with the grandkids, just living life nice, not really having to worry about it, maybe helping your kids out some because you have a little extra money, you retire, Social Security, yeah, some people, lucky enough, and their employees
employers, help them, with retirement funds and stuff like that, and kind of pay in it, which is, more money you pay in while you're living, but it gives you a little more to retire on. But for a lot of people, that doesn't happen. You look for a small business, a family-owned business, they offer nothing. So it's up to you to kind of do it. You don't really make that much, so you can't really pay into it, like you would like to, if any. Like me, most of my life I've been self-employed, and I just never made that much money. And to spend money on that, so yeah, it's kind of dismal and depressing for most people, I would say probably about half the population or more, have it pretty rough when they retire. If they even make it to retirement, like I said. But anyway, yeah, you're retired, supposedly retired, but you can't retire. So you work, you're old, so you stay sick and sore, and things don't work very good much anymore, so it's hard to even hold a job once you get to a certain age. But you have to try to do something because, you gotta pay your bills, and all them bills keep coming due, and, people want their money, and you keep going. You have to go to the doctors more and more. You have, surgeries and stuff like that. A lot of employers don't like that, Most time you can't work more than part-time if you're lucky enough to even do that, Everything just keeps kind of spiraling out of control, and then it all ends eventually. Fun life. Nice. Dum-de-dum-dum. We'll have some nice music at the end to make everything pleasing and exciting for you. Something uplifting. Here we go. Some music. Is that uplifting? Beautiful music. Everybody have a wonderful life when you retire. Bye-bye.